Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from HM2416A and doing a research on travel motivations and satisfactions among the visitors in Paya Indah Wetland. So the first presenter is, my name is SITI NORFARAHIN binti HAMDAN.
So for the second presenter, my name is Siti AISHAH binti Muhammad NURUL.
And for the last presenter, my name is NURUL NABILAH binti ZAINOL.
So let's proceed to the next slide. The introductions. IUCNs define ecotourism as a environmentally responsible travel and visitations to relatively undisturbed natural areas in order to enjoy and appreciate nature that promotes conservation, has low visitors impact and provide the beneficially active socio-economic involvement of local populations. And like we know that tourist motivation is important things to understand tourist behavior and motivations to contribute to the tourism desire, objective and expectations. Besides that, preparations by the tourist destinations will continue with the pull and push factor in ecotourism's industry. Generally, there are a lot of ecotourism attraction in Malaysia, and Paya Indah Wetlands is one of the ecotourism attractions, and it is have their own specialty and benefit that tourists or visitors can get from the ecotourism attractions.
Next, I will proceed with the problem statement. So the problem that we identify in Paya Indah Wetland is the number of the visitor. The number of the visitor in Paya Indah Wetland not as much as the number of the visitor visited to Putrajaya Wetland Park. Although both of these destinations have the same type of attraction, such as wildlife sanctuary that attracting a variety of animals that combine terrestrial, aquatic, wetland environment. Diagram 1 shows that the number of the visitor at the both of this destination. As you can see here, the number of the visitor in Putrajaya Wetland Park is more than the number of the visitor in Paya Indah Wetland from 2015 until 2017. In 2017, the number of the visitor in Putrajaya Wetland Park are more than 3,000 visitors, while in Paya Indah Wetland, the number of the visitor not more than 1,000 visitors. And then, there are also slightly decrease in the number of the visitor in Paya Indah Wetland from 2016 until 2017. Therefore, it shows that many of the visitors are more attracted to go to Putrajaya Wetland Park rather than Paya Indah Wetland. However, the review from visitors on Paya Indah Wetland social media such as Facebook and Instagram shows that the certain number of them will enjoy with their visit to Paya Indah Wetland. But there are also review from the visitor that said that Paya Indah Wetland need more improvement on the landscape and the management. Thus, we aim to examine the push and pull motivation factor and satisfactions among visitors in ecotourism destination, especially in Paya Indah Wetland. Next, so this is the picture how is it like in Paya Indah Wetland. And next, this is the picture and the view and attractions in.
So we move to research objective and research questions. So they have two research objectives, which are to investigate the visitors' pull and push motivation factors in Paya Indah Wetland and to test the relationship between visitors' travel motivations and satisfactions. And for the research questions, which are what are the visitors' pull and push motivation factors in Paya Indah Wetland, and what is the relationship between the motivation and satisfactions of visitors in Paya Indah Wetland. So there are two research hypotheses, which the first one is the travel motivation of visitors to destinations depend on the perceptions and preference of individual. And for the second hypothesis, there are identifiable positive relationship between visitors' travel motivations and visitor satisfactions.
Next, we move to the proposed conceptual framework. As you can see, the diagram 2 shows the relationship between the travel motivations and visitor satisfaction in Paya Indah Wetland, Selangor. Travel motivation is influenced by two forces, which is the concepts of push and pull factors. Those two variables clarify individuals' travel since they are pushed by their own inwards power and pulled by the outer powers of goal properties. Of the push factors such as social interaction, the need for escape, adventure, relaxations, and self-exploration is psychological motivations. Push factors relate to the decision of whether to go on a vacations, while pull factors relate to the decision of where to go. Internal motivation, which is push force, drive the tourist to travel, leading to an external search for an appropriate tourist destination. Pull factors then come into effect by convincing the tourists that a destination is appropriate for them. So that's why push and pull factors can affect visitor satisfaction when they travel to ecotourism destinations. The next is significance of the research. From this study, the findings from this research also can be used to facilitate students to discover more strategies to overcome the problem at the ecotourism destinations. Furthermore, research finding will be important for researchers working in ecotourism organizations, particularly the Paya Indah Wetlands as a ecotourism destinations. So, for future researchers interested in this field, this new framework may act as a reference framework.
For the ecotourism recreation and ecotourism park literature, according to the Green 2018, ecotourism allows countries and community to build their economies without harming the environment, which means that local wildlife can thrive and visitors also can enjoy untouched destinations. Furthermore, there are some places in the world make and ecotourism sites become a recreational park to local community. People, leisure and recreation is made possible through a wide range of provider, through powers and duties invested in government and through natural and man-made resources, services, facilities and management by Tolkinson 2005. And based on Hussein and Muhammad in 2006, an eco-friendly design of ecotourism accommodations that harmonious and compatible to natural surrounding could increase the tourist interest to the place itself.
Next, I will proceed with the travel motivation, push and pull factor. So, according to the Kruger and Seaman 2010, motivation is one of the most important variables for explaining travel behavior, especially when it's come to the tourism product which offer more than just a leisure experience. Robinson 2017 also emphasized that the tourists are driven by the motivation while deciding which type of holiday to choose and which destination to visit. Therefore, motivation triggers any evaluation that visitor comment about a destination. In addition, in the study model of Yoon and Yusal 2005, motivation is divided into two, which are push factor and pull factor. According to the Bryan and Ryan 2011, the push and pull factor are commonly used in tourism industry to identify the underlying travel motivation and behavior of visitor. So, what is pull and push factor? According to the Crompton 1979, the push factor are the travel motive that drive visitor to travel to the destination. Meanwhile, pull factor are directly related on the destination attraction that attract visitor to travel to that destination. Next, for the 2.3, which is the push factor. As I said before, push factor is the travel motive that push visitor to travel to the destination. It is defined by the Crompton 1979. So, the most common push factor that identified in literature sources are escape, social interaction, prestige, and realizations. These motivation factors serve as explanation why individuals travel and which destination they choose to visit. Next, I will proceed with 2.4, which is pull factor. Pull factor are the external aspect of a specific attraction in the destination which visitor might or might not find desirable to visit. This can include tangible and intangible elements, and it also can include the environmental features, unique culture, events, and unique environment. Next, several researchers of pull factor have been reported in the tourism literature. The most common pull factor identified are novelty, education, availability, accessibility, and facilities, and activities and attractions. In the case of ecotourism destination, pull factors such as facilities, activities and attractions, and natural flora and fauna seem to be the major pull factor, and they are be conspicuous destination feature that visitors are more likely to rate higher than the other pull factor. Next, for 2.5, visitor satisfactions. Tourism industry is different from the other business activities because it is a business that selling memorable experience to people, and it is very important when it's come to the visitor satisfaction. It is because satisfaction plays an essential role in the development of highly demand tourism services and products. Mohammed, Som and Ismail 2018. And according to Kwong and Tuha 2014, visitor satisfaction means the extent of the overall pressure or the contentment felt by the visitor resulting from the ability of the trip experience to fulfill visitor desire, expectation and needs in relation to the trip. It is the mental appraisal and comparison between what they are expected to receive and what they are actually receive. Next, according to the Laura Rira 2015, point out that the survey of the satisfaction have always been one of the important reference indicator for enterprise and organization to evaluate product and the services performance. Next, for the research design, this research uses the basic research which has a primary objective in order to improve knowledge and the theoretical understanding of the relationship among the variables. This research also will use the quantitative approach to collect data from the respondent through the case study, social survey and others, which enable to examine the subject of the research in a comprehensive way. In addition, the type of research that will be used is regression. Regression research will conduct to examine the relationship between two variables, which are the travel motivation and satisfaction among visitors. This type of research might be sufficient to enable those two variables either significant or not to each other.
Next, the method used for collecting data in this analysis is questionnaire. The respondents must complete a set of questionnaire to identify the relationship between visitors' pull and push motivations factors in Paya Indah Wetlands and visitors' travel motivations and satisfactions. The questionnaire was taken from the previous research and some of the questions have been modified to reflect the context of local study. The aim of utilizing this method is to allow respondents to conduct the questionnaire according to their time. This strategy allows respondents to be easily recognized and help to prevent disagreements with their presentations. Furthermore, validity is defined as the extent to which a concept is accurately measured in a qualitative study by the Robertus, Hiller and Ellison Twycross 2015, and a pre-testing or pilot test is performed by the researcher until real data is gathered. During the actual study, Cronbach alpha test was performed to test the consistency of the instrument.
So we move to the next, which is populations and sample. The survey was conducted on people who visited Paya Indah Wetlands, Selangor. Each person of the population is known as element. So based on the tourist arrival to ecotourism destination, which is Paya Indah Wetlands, the population in this research is 100,000 visitors in 2018. For the sampling method, the research was used a snowball sampling as a sampling method. Thus, this sampling method is known as the sampling by reference, where one respondent is being used to generate a web link to others. So in this case, the researchers will use the initial respondents to help identify the other respondents in target populations of Paya Indah Wetlands, Selangor. For the sample size is the actual number of subjects chosen as a sample to represent the population characteristics. Thus, based on the sample size table from the Research Advices 2006, researchers had decided to select 384 respondents who visited Paya Indah Wetlands, Selangor as a sample size in this research.
Next, I will proceed with the plans for data analysis. So, as I mentioned before in research design, we will use the primary data collection in this research. The data will collected directly from the original or the primary sources through the online survey method. This survey created in English and Malay to ease the respondent to understand and answer the survey as well, and it will be using the online service, which is the Google Form Creator. The system generates a web link automatically as soon as the questionnaire had been complete, and the link will be posted on the social media such as WhatsApp, Facebook and Instagram as the platform to distribute among the visitors in Paya Indah Wetland. Furthermore, this survey also will be applied the snowball sampling method as the method to generate the web link to the others visitor, which once the researcher have contact the detail of one visitor, she or he can help to recruit other visitors to complete the online survey too.
So next we move to the questionnaire design. The questionnaire is a structured technique for collecting data and information from respondents. So for this research, a questionnaire will be provided to make an analysis about the result of respondents' answer. So the questionnaire for this research consists of 3 sections, which is section A, B and C. Section A is examine visitors' demographic such as gender, age, marital status, level of educations, occupations, and companions during trips. For the section B is about the factors that influence visitors' motivations to visit Paya Indah Wetlands, which is push and pull factors. And for the last section is focused on the overall of visitor satisfaction while visit Paya Indah Wetlands Selangor. For the section B and C, researcher is used 5-point Likert scale, which is from strongly disagree to strongly agree. In section B, there are 5 total of push factors and 5 factors of pull motivations were used to depict level of satisfaction factors, which are escape and health, relaxations, prestige, social interactions, and exploratory. And for the pull factors, which is novelty, educations, natural resources, attractions, activity, and events. And the last one is availability, accessibility, and facilities. We move to the next, which is, as you can see, the table shows demographic characteristic of the current research respondent. Among the 328 visitors who participate in the research, there were more female respondents, which is 52.9%, than male respondents, which is 47.1%, and the majority of the respondents were contribute in this research within the age group 21 to 30 years old, which is 48.6%, while the minority of the respondents were within the age group over 50 years old, which is 5.5%. For the marital status, most of the respondents were with the status of single, which is 57.2%, and married become the minority with 42.8%. Other than that, it is also shows that most of the respondents have a diploma or degree, which is 45.6% as their level of education. And the rest of the respondents have others, which is 4.9%, and most respondent occupations are private or government staff, which is 36.8%. Finally, friends are become the major companion during this trip, which is 38.2%, and the frequent of respondents that have ever been to Paya Indah Wetland is 328%, with 76.3%.
Next, I will proceed with the visitor push and pull motivation factor in Paya Indah Wetland. The validity and reliability of each push and pull variable were identified by using the Cronchbar alpha analysis. The principal component analysis with the varimax rotation was performed to examine the push and pull variable. Hence, this Cronchbar alpha analysis may find out and indicate the objective one of this research, which is to investigate the visitor push and pull motivation factor in Paya Indah Wetland. So, for this objective one, we will focus on the mean score to answer it. So, as you can see here in the table mean score for the push factor, the mean score for the factor 1, which is the escape and health, is 12.34. For the second factor, which is relaxation, is 7.83. For the third factor is prestige, which is 11. For the fourth factor is social interaction, is 12.18. For the last factor is self-exploratory, has the highest mean score, which is 12.82. From reviewing the mean score of the composite indicator, it was found out that it was found that out of the 5 underlying push factors, self-exploratory was the most important factor to motivate the visitors to visit Paya Indah Wetland, followed by escape and health, social interaction, prestige, and relaxations. So for the mean score for the pull factor, the factor for number 1 is, which is novelty, is 8.55. Factor 2 is education, has the highest mean score, which is 12.78. Third factor is natural resources, 8.31. The fourth factor, which is attraction, activities, and event, 11.72. And the last one is availability, accessibility, and facilities, which is 8.37.
So we move to the relationship between visitors' travel motivation and satisfactions. As you can see in the table, is analysis on the overall level satisfaction of tourists or visitors visited Paya Indah Wetland, which we get a mean is 4.19. Explain that 9 people, which are 2.8%, the executive of the respondents identified, were out of 38 visitors, which are 11.6% natural, 164 visitors, which are 50.2% agree, and 116 visitors, which are 35.5% strongly agree. For the implications, Paya Indah Wetlands should create monitoring programs to preserve the authenticity, value, and maintain the quality of Paya Indah Wetlands scenic landscape. So this can attract more tourists or visitors to come to at Paya Indah Wetland. So Paya Indah Wetland also have to provide better information and experience towards tourist group. The Paya Indah Wetland Authority must be able to affirm the ecotourism park zoning system by placing more signs in critical area. And furthermore, the data collection process was disrupted due to COVID-19 happened at the same time during the research time frame, and it makes researchers hard to find more respondents.
As a conclusion, main important analysis found that the most dominant push factors was self-exploratory, which is 12.82, while the lowest push factors motivation was relaxation, which is 7.83, as shows in table 4.2. And for the pull factors contract, the highest mean score was given to education, which is 12.78, while natural resources was 8.31, got the lowest mean score, as shows in table 4.3. This idea indicate that education and attractions, activities and events are the most dominant pull factors that potentially influence and entice tourists to travel to ecotourism destinations. Additionally, within the pool variable, educations and item opportunities to increase knowledge receive the highest mean importance score, which is 4.41, as shows in table 4.3. This finding indicates that the most of tourists within this sample prefer to gain more knowledge while visit ecotourism destinations. This research finding indicates that educations and attractions, activities and events influence tourists' decisions to choose an ecotourism destination while traveling. Moreover, it is highly recommended that the Paya Indah Wetlands Authority should continue to ensure that tourism activity will not harm the scenic landscape at ecotourism destination and while maintaining the authenticity of the environment as a natural destination. So that's all.
So this is our references, and thank you.